I'm going to regret this.
Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hi, this is Nick Anastasiou, story editor on Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Bad Batch. And you are listening to Aggressive Negotiations.
Blasting across the hyperspace lanes and the HoloNet waves is Aggressive Negotiations, your dose of Star Wars goodness here on the Nerd Party Network. I am John Mills, and I am joined on this journey by the esteemed Jedi Master, Matthew Rushing, who will illuminate for us the great mysteries of the Star Wars recipe for humble pie. Master Rushing, how are you?
Well, I appreciate that, John. And of course, I don't know actually how good my recipe is, but hopefully you will enjoy this. First, you're going to want to take your first pinch. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Oh, man. What does humble pie taste like, do you think, in the Star Wars universe? Is it like that fizzy drink at Galaxy's Edge that numbs your lips?
Ooh. Oh, yeah. What was that one called?
I can't remember.
That was like was it Tauntaun juice or something like that?
Yeah, I think it possibly is, but I
probably.
I think that's the one I actually had when we went together. So.
Oh, you mean where they took back the limited edition cup after you paid for it?
Yes. And do you know, you want to hear a great story? This has nothing to do with the episode.
I do.
But
please.
That year for my birthday, a good friend of mine gave me a first edition of one of those.
Oh, well, there you go.
And
it all
so
worked out.
I was like, take that, Galaxy's Edge.
Balance to the Force and balance to the terrible customer service experience you had at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. But you know what a great customer service experience would be if somebody goes on over and gives us a star rating and review over on Apple Podcasts. We ask you each time, folks, if you haven't yet, please do so. We know that most people don't. But if you can find it in your heart to just go over and at least give us a star rating, that would be fantastic. A review is just a little bit better, but we'll take what you're willing to give because we do this because we love to give. We love to give, and we love to also give our thoughts on some zany topics here in Star Wars. And this is one of those oddball ones I'm going to throw at you, Matt, and I'm going to explain the origin of this whole topic. I recently went to a hibachi dinner with the family. For those not familiar with hibachi, it's where they cook in front of you. They have like the big grill and they do the cool stuff with flipping the eggs and the volcano fire and stuff like that with the onions. And they served us the soup, which has mushrooms, very delicious broth, and the mushrooms floating in it. I turned to my youngest, who I've converted into a Star Wars fan, by showing her animation. I'm just going to point that out. And I said, "Oh, doesn't this look like all of the garbage floating in the garbage compactor?" And she wrinkles her nose for a second and she says, "Yeah." And I said, "You going to finish that?" She said, "No." I said, "Great, I'll take yours." So it got me thinking, though. I froze for a second. And this is because this is just how any Star Wars fan's brain works. I make the joke and I look at it and I go, why did they have garbage compactors on the Death Star? There's no space is a big place. Like, what was the point of compacting the garbage? And so I just want to sit here and just have a discussion. Like, what would the point of a garbage compactor be on the Death Star anyway?
You know, I actually think that is a really good question because the size of the Death Star is so enormous. You know, you would think you wouldn't really run out of room for trash in the first place.
Right.
And, you know, who knows? I know we've gotten cross sections of it and everything like that, but I don't know, like, what point is there to have a trash compactor? And maybe it's just the efficiency of the Empire. Like, they just, you know, they were worried about all of the cola that all the guys were going to be drinking because they're just on break all the time, and, like, you know, broken coffee mugs. And, I mean, seriously, that's one thing I think, too. When you think about the trash compactor, and then you kind of extrapolate, okay, like how many people actually are on the Death Star at any one time? So, I mean, you could be talking about massive amounts of trash.
Sure.
But still, it does seem like a very strange thing that you have this huge thing. We've already seen that the Empire doesn't care about space, and they just dump their trash before they jump to hyperspace. And so what would cause them to need to compact trash? Was there a flaw in the design, and there were only a few places that trash was collected, and therefore they needed to be able to compact it to create more space?
Yeah, I'm going to come at this from a couple of angles. The first one is I'm going to say this is a government project. And if there's one thing any human being should realize, is a government project is full of waste and graft. And I can easily see somebody bribing their way into saying, hey, I need some funds and my company's going under. Hey, Orson, nudge, nudge. Could you help a brother out here? And Orson's like, we need trash compaction on the Death Star. And it's a big speech. And before they go to Gorman and they realize, oh yeah, we need that, and so they construct those. I have been trying to put my head around it though, because it's like there's no separation. So like I tried to come at it initially from, oh well, they could reconstitute things and recycle stuff, pretty easily because they're going to need more stuff. But if you're putting food and what looks like construction waste and other stuff in there, you're not separating your garbage. Now, if you compact it, you still can't recycle it. So it's not like the joke problem that the Enterprise has, which is they're recycling everything on there into its constituent matter. So it would make me very suspicious of drinking coffee on Voyager, but that's just me.
Yeah. This coffee tastes a little nutty.
Yeah. It's a little gamey.
Yeah.
A little gamey. That's weird.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, is it possible that they compacted it to use it as some sort of fuel for secondary systems? There was some way they could burn it, but what could you get from burning this? Like it would take more energy to burn like that giant metal stanchion that they're using to try to stop the trash compactor than that. Like, that's a negative cost right there. So like,
yes, okay. So I have to ask you this question, because the moment we started thinking about the trash compactor, now I'm trying to understand as to why a creature like the Dianoga exists in the trash compactor. And is it that the Dianoga really enjoys feeding off of, the waste from beings, and that's what cleans that part of the trash, and what's left gets compacted and then is able to be, put into smaller forms, which allows them then to take those raw metals and possibly turn them into things. You see what I'm saying? It's a process of elimination. So you get rid of all the stuff that is biological in that, and the rest of it is all stuff that just could be melted down, separated, and then used for, say, ship construction.
And if you really want to make it, ship repair, because if the Death Star's to be a battle station, you got to be able to repair ships and stuff like that. But I love this idea because my brain then takes it, again, this is why we're such a good pair, because I'm the slightly demented one. So I take what you're talking about here and all the foodstuffs go in and everything. And then I say, well, it was dry when the Dianoga started eating. So what they're floating around in isn't just wastewater. It's actually the leavings from the Dianoga. Because every organic creature is going to expel waste. So they're basically floating in a bunch of pee. All right, I'll just go ahead and say it. Yeah.
See, I think that the whole idea of what the Empire does with its waste, and the question then about the trash compactor and everything, it really is an interesting question, because when you think about what happened in Empire Strikes Back, and they just dump their trash in space and then they just leave, it does remind you of, and it's just one of these things where it's like this small reminder of how little the Empire cares about anything but itself, right? And so if you think about this as the idea that it's standard operating procedure that they would just dump their trash before they light speed out of a place. Well, I mean, if you're in orbit of a planet and you do that, well, that's just going to come crashing down on a planet or be in orbit of that planet, right? And so there's so little care for the Empire about anything else other than themselves, and I just find that to be incredibly fascinating. And it's one of those areas where I think everybody's just kind of reminded, yeah, the Empire just doesn't care about anybody but them. And so, but is there anything else that, so if we compacted this trash down, like, is that the kind of thing too that, we saw a world like Ferrix, right? Where it seems to be a place where they bring old ships and things to be taken apart and broken into parts, and then utilized basically as a intergalactic junkyard, so that if you need certain parts, this is the type of place you come. Is that also the type of thing where a trash compactor just compacts everything and then it's brought to maybe a place like Ferrix, a planet that's kind of run on taking apart old things, and then the Empire then at that point starts to get a cut of that?
Okay, so you're saying from like a financial standpoint, the Empire drops that off.
Yes. Yeah, like it's a part of like a business arrangement.
I could see that. The thing is, though, they then have to transport the stuff there. And I'm like, that really seems to, I would view it as they wouldn't go to Ferrix or a place like Ferrix. They would keep it internal only. And, let's extend it even to the command ship in The Last Jedi. Hey, sequel fans, I'm throwing you a bone here. There's like a construction plant on there. I wonder specifically about the Death Star if they would have had their own construction plant on there, because the best space station would be one that would be self-sufficient enough not just to repair ships, but to construct them. And if it's that large, I know we have our cross sections and stuff, but none of that stuff's like really official.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's beautiful. And I love the cross sections and location stuff. I'm not knocking that stuff at all. They're some of my favorite books that they ever released.
Yeah.
And like I would see it with the Death Star that they would be putting it into its own on-premises like ship construction plant. Because think about it.
Yeah.
If you have a space station, like I'd love a story if, let's lean into this, right? Where they're doing the trash compactor, organic matter gets eaten by the Dianoga. Dianoga goes off. They clean it. They press it. They dry it. They put it down there. Think about the ultimate test facility for high concept weapons, new prototypes.
Yeah,
it's contained on the Death Star. There's zero security problems with that at all. You suddenly created this self-contained. You could make new super ships without anybody knowing or able to track down where it is. Death Star can just go off to the outer rim, float around for a little bit, test the thing, and then fly back over and launch it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things too, where by asking the question, we also are like, yeah, we get it. I mean, it's just, it makes for a fun sequence. And so I don't think any more thought was put into it than that.
Oh goodness, no, not at all. Yeah.
But at the same time, when I do think about the size of the Death Star, that it's basically larger than some moons that are fully occupied with people, and you think about all of the crew, you think all of the soldiers, all of the ships that can dock in there, all of that, and you think about all of the waste that is generated by that much stuff, that many people, that much going on. I do think it can make sense as to why you would need something like this, because even as big as the Death Star is, I mean, we as human beings, right? You just think about the small amounts. You think about the small areas in our house that are devoted to the trash that we can collect, right? It's not very much. And so, but then you multiply that by the size of a small moon. I think that you can kind of understand as to why, even with as big as the Death Star is, do you want to be giving tons of space to trash collection, or do you realize, hey, you know what, we could have less space devoted to this and devote more space to other things if we just use trash compactors, and that allows us to be more, again, it becomes about the efficiency of the thing, which, as you mentioned, this is a government project, which, they're really known for their efficiency, but this seems like a place where you might actually be thinking about that, right? Because the military itself, when it comes to that type of stuff, when you think about submarine life, when you think about
that's true.
Aircraft carrier life, that type of stuff, they are very efficient with space, right? They have to be. And so this, even though you're on something, again, this big, it does actually kind of make sense that you might be thinking when you're thinking from an engineering standpoint, an engineer's thought process, this actually makes a little bit more sense.
But see, I would say just to have fun with it, to counter argue your efficiency standpoint on that, is the Death Star appears to be largely hollow on the inside, even from the little shots that we get. So I can't imagine anybody walking to the trash receptacle. There has to be some sort of like null gravity field area down near the core where there's just like this ball of trash floating. Like, that's just like,
that's why in Robot Chicken, where the guy just keeps falling and he hits the ground, and the guy's like, come on, because he's the one down there who's sweeping it all in to where it goes. Right?
Yeah. But I mean, come on, what trooper is like, oh, I'm late for duty, I'll just throw the wrapper over the side here, and then just like that wrapper just floats on down and all of those sorts of things. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a lot of fun to ponder. So, if you had to say you're pressed and the trash compactor is there, I mean, I have to honestly question one last thing. Why was there a grate that would allow the smell of the trash compactor to waft up into the cell block? Was that on purpose to punish people for working in this? Because she blows a grate apart to jump down in there that has very obvious slats in it that are allowing vapor to escape, which from a large sense makes sense because you don't want the gases to build up. You have problems then. That's why landfills have the little, exhaust vents that spout flame every so often, methane and everything. But why would you have put those grates in the hallway? I mean, can you answer that one for me on our way out the door here?
Yeah, that's a great question, because you think about the opportunity that, if you're cleaning a cell, somebody's, and then maybe they are really about cleanliness, who knows, in the Empire, and because every place that we see Empire-wise looks very clean and sterile. And so that those grates are there for, the cleaning crews to just throw the trash down to the compactor. But why is it open? That, I think, is a great question, especially when the doors to the cells close, so they wouldn't be able to smell what's on the outside. I think that this was a real engineering flaw here, and that's actually what Galen Erso spent so much time working on. He was going to make
to make sure that they smelled their own poop.
Exactly.
There you go. That works.
He made their lives, as just for the few short moments that the Death Star was fully operational, that they smelled their own crap. I'm
down with that.
So I like that idea.
I like it.
Yeah, that was that was his ultimate revenge. Other than it getting destroyed, that was the other ultimate revenge from Galen.
That was the part of the hologram that they never got to play because the Death Star shot Jedha. The second half of the hologram was like, engine, as an added bonus.
Smell poo.
I have it. That's right. The entire place smells awful. That was my final revenge. I mean, you really got to think about it that way.
That's the name of the episode. Galen's Revenge.
It's like Montezuma's Revenge.
Exactly.
Boom. There you go. I love this. I absolutely love it. You know what? We figured it out. The whole trash compactor mysteries are solved here on Aggressive Negotiations. That's what we do.
And that's the thing.
What we do.
When you compact the trash, it actually smells worse, because you're mixing it up.
Right. They actually, that's why there's a door.
Exactly,
somebody has to go in and get it.
Exactly, yes.
All right. Death Star really seems terrible on the inside
it does.
now. But you know what is not terrible? What is in fact delightful is connecting with you on social media. So where can people find you out there in the wilds of the internet?
Well, yes, if you would like to do that, please do that over on any of the social media platforms. You'll want to search for Matt Rushing02. If I'm on that platform, you'll find me under that name. We'd love to talk to you. Of course, here on the network, you'll also find me outside Aggressive Negotiations on Owlpost, talking about every single chapter of the Harry Potter series, one chapter at a time, so enjoy that. And then over on the TFM network, I've got a bunch of shows talking about Star Trek that you can listen to, whether it's Strange New Worlds or Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, so many others. Check those out. You can also find me doing the 602 Club, which is a general geek show, and we just talk about all of the franchises that we love outside of Star Trek. So, and John's a frequent guest over there, so if you'd like to check all those out, we'd love that. But John, if people are wondering if they could maybe get a trash compactor installed in their house and they're wanting some tips, where can they find you?
Well, you can send that to Orson Krennic, care of Kessel Junkie online, KESSELJUNKIE. You know what? Connect with me on Letterboxd, folks, because I make a habit of watching lots of movies, lots and lots of movies, and I love talking about them with people. So speaking of loving talking about movies with people, I co-host a show here on the network called House Lights with Tristan Riddell and Darren Moser, where we have a lot of fun talking about the different works of directors, their entire careers sometimes, depending on how many movies that is. But otherwise, we cut it up by topic and decade. We have a lot of fun with it. So come on over and join us there. But Matt, I want to invite you to join me over to the Jedi Temple, where I have a new prototype trash compactor that unfortunately was built right next to Master Windows' quarters, and it's made him even grumpier than usual, so I could use your hand on this. So I think it's time that we get back there and close these negotiations.
John, negotiations are closed.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.